Hello everybody, I'm JoJo and this is my wife Aisha.
Hello.
And we're from the Cupcake Fairy, a small 100% scratch-made bakery down in Raleigh, North Carolina. We actually started our business by accident. 10 years ago, our oldest daughter was graduating high school and moving on into college, and we needed to make some extra income. We examined our skills. My wife being a wonderful baker, we decided to sell cupcakes. We started with just a tent, a table, and set up roadside and started selling to the public. We grabbed the kids and told them they would put in family time, which means working for free. They weren't too happy about that. My wife ran down to a local discount store and got us $2 t-shirts to put on so that we could all match. We looked quite a mess, but the response was overwhelming and we seemed like we were immediately sold out. So we started kind of regularly setting up and selling our cupcakes, and everything went well. Fast forward a few years, and we went ahead and took the leap and jumped straight in and decided to give it our 100% effort and open one of our 2 bakeries that are down in North Carolina currently. So today my wife is going to be showing me how to make some things through the years. She's perfected her craft. I stayed on the marketing and sales side, and I just got sick of people asking me, hey, do you bake too?
He doesn't.
I try. Sometimes I would lie, honestly, but my wife is going to show me how to bake some things today in addition to you. I'm going to let her talk about what we're going to do, and then we'll move forward.
All right, so like you said, my name is Aisha. I'm actually originally from Baltimore, Maryland, and I moved down to North Carolina with my mom when I was a kid. However, my mom always had the tradition of being an excellent cook and an amazing baker. So I mostly became interested in baking, and years later when I met Joe, I was able to follow my passion. Now, most of what I've learned is completely by trial and error. So like you, I started out as an amateur cook. So most of what I learned it on YouTube, I learned it on the internet, and by looking at these amazing baking blogs that are out there. So what I decided to do with this show is, while you guys are learning, my husband is also going to be learning how to bake alongside you guys. You guys are going to learn how to avoid some of the pitfalls. You're going to learn how to properly mix, and you're going to learn how to properly frost your cupcakes and any of your decadent desserts. So by the end of this show, and by the end of each episode, you'll be able to say, I baked that.
So, what are we going to make today?
Today, we're going to be making something amazing. Joe and I actually won a prize for this. They're going to be sweet potato cupcakes with caramel, bacon, and toasted pecans, and they are absolutely delicious and a southern decadent dessert. So what we're going to go on and get started with today, interestingly enough, we're actually going to start with the caramel because the caramel actually has to go through a process of cooling. So we're going to go in and get going with that, and let's go in and get going. So with the caramel, we're going to start with half a cup of half and half, which we're going to pour over here into our saucepan. Also, Joseph, go in and get your.
Yes, I'm supposed to be doing this.
Hey, well, go in and get your light brown sugar from right there.
Okay.
Go in and point it to, and show everybody what that is. That's right. That's the light brown sugar. You're going to go in and put that in there as well.
The whole thing?
Yes, put the whole thing in. Perfect, looking good. And then what you're also going to do is you also needed a pinch of salt, but we can do that at the end. It doesn't have to happen right now. Sure. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and turn this on. We're going to want this stove on medium. You don't want this to come to a boil. It's very important that you don't boil your caramel. So we're going to turn that down to about there.
Okay.
And Joseph, what I'd like you to do is go on and whisk that.
All right.
Give it a light whisk, that's right. Make sure it's decently mixed. All right, so we're gonna go on and add in 2 ounces of butter. That is very important to the caramel. We didn't add it in a moment before, but we caught it just in time. So that way you know this is what creates the richness and the flavor, is that butter and that sugar coming together harmoniously. So we're adding it now, no harm, no foul. We're gonna turn this down just a little, because like I said, we don't want this coming to a boil. We just want this sort of at a nice little simmer, and he is rolling with the punches. Now, see, these are kind of things, mistakes that might happen at home. When you're cooking, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. You can still save your caramel with no problem. This caramel is very forgiving. So unlike some caramels, which are pretty stringent in the way you make them, this is very forgiving. So you'll still be able to use it with no problem. So we're just gonna whisk that in until it's nicely warmed through, and once it's nice and melted, we're gonna go on and let it maybe cook for another minute or so, and then that's perfect. And then you can pull that right off of the eye, and we'll be able to use it at a later point during the show. That is perfect. Did a good job. All right. So that is it for the caramel. We're gonna cool that. So this caramel sauce, if you want to quick cool your caramel sauce, all you have to do, and this is one of the tips that one of the little tricks I use in the shop at all times, I will take that, put it into sort of a square container so that it's sort of evenly spread out, and put it in the freezer. So if you want it done quickly, we can go in and get that done quickly and have it cooled within 30 minutes. So if you have a party coming up, you can have it done really, really fast. All right, so everybody at home, so while your caramel is cooling beautifully, we're gonna go on and move on to JoJo putting our butter and our sugars together. So let me go on and tell you how much butter you need. You're gonna need 8 ounces of butter, which is 2 sticks, softened. Okay, by softened, I mean when you put your finger in it, you can see it depress like that. So it's very important to have the proper temperature butter, or what's gonna happen is you're gonna have a coarse product at the end. So you're wondering why is my cake so crumbly? Well, it's because your butter is too cold. So you're gonna wanna make sure your butter is the perfect temperature, otherwise your product is not gonna come out as good as it could. So he's gonna go in and put in his 2 sticks of butter. Now, usually I use salted butter, but you can also use unsalted butter if you prefer. However, you may need to add another pinch or 2 of salt if you're gonna use unsalted butter, so that your flavor comes out the way you're gonna want it to. So he added in his 2 sticks. Now, JoJo is also gonna add in 1 cup of light brown sugar. Now, when you put in your light brown sugar, you're gonna wanna pack it really good, and he's gonna show you what that means. He's gonna pack it really good into that measuring cup, because you don't want a lot of air in your sugar. A lot of air means that you're gonna have less volume, so you're not gonna have enough sugar. So make sure you pack that down really nicely, just like he's doing.
So do I tightly pack it or lightly pack it?
Tightly pack it, not lightly. So you're gonna tightly pack that in there. That's okay, looking good, JoJo. You're gonna go on and put in the rest. And then, yeah, that's perfect. And you're just gonna wanna make sure, it looks to me like JoJo might need a little bit more sugar. So we're gonna go on and see if we can get a little bit more sugar in there. It might be enough, let's see. Yeah, it looks pretty good.
All right.
So look at that, you see that? That's plenty of sugar for you guys. So now JoJo's gonna dump that in the bowl. Looking good. And now we're gonna move on to our granulated sugar. So we're gonna put 1 cup of granulated sugar in there as well. So go on and pour that in, JoJo. And the granulated sugar together with the brown sugar gives your cupcakes a softer, lighter texture. So this is gonna make them, brown sugar is higher in moisture content, so it's gonna be a really wonderful moist cupcake because of that. So go on and dump that in.
Okay.
That's right. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go on and put that on our stand mixer. And hopefully you at home have a stand mixer, because quite frankly, I don't do anything in the kitchen without it. Now, there's a few things I might mix with a hand mixer, but hand mixers, in my opinion, are a headache. So stand mixers are what we do, and Joe, as you saw, easily put that on there. You can get a nice stand mixer, really inexpensive. I would advise you to invest in one. So all right, Joe, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go on and turn that on to that's right, that's good.
Okay.
That looks like it's about medium, low speed, that's perfect. And you're gonna wanna keep an eye on that. And you're gonna wanna beat that until for about 2 minutes, and then you're gonna turn that off, and you're gonna scrape down the sides of your bowl, and then turn that back on to medium-high speed until your butter and sugar is nicely emulsified. Emulsified means that your butter and sugar have married beautifully, and so you have this light, fluffy texture for your butter and sugar mixture.
So I guess we're emulsified then.
We're emulsified, baby. That's right. We are emulsified. Because otherwise we wouldn't be on this show together today. So yeah, JoJo's doing a great job. And if you guys are following along at home, you know this is really not very hard. People always think that what Joe and I do is really difficult. The difficult side is not baking. The difficult side is running our business. That's where the hard work really comes in. This is the fun part. So yeah, we'll let that go for a little bit. Let's take a look at this. Looking good, JoJo.
All right.
All right.
I'm cooking now.
Yes, you are. So that's looking good. So while that's going, actually, guys, what we're gonna do, is we're gonna go on and start measuring out our flour and our spices to go into our butter sugar mix. All right, so now what JoJo is gonna do, he's gonna turn the mixer off. He's gonna lower that bowl, and he's gonna scrape down both the beater, which, by the way, just so you know, this is a flat beater. So that's mostly what you're gonna be using when you are using your stand mixer. It's the standard. So generally speaking, you'll use the other beaters like the whisk when you're doing things like whisking eggs, making whipped cream. But for the most part, you're gonna use this flat beater. So Joe right now is scraping down those sides really good, very, very important. And then once he does that, you don't need to take that off, honey.
No?
No, you don't need to take it off.
So for me, I
Leave
like
it
to...
on. No need to do that. So you're gonna just leave that on there, scrape down the sides really good. Be patient. It's okay. There's no rush. And then we're gonna turn that back on and get her going again.
And then I want to make sure to get down deep inside to make sure there's nothing down along the bottom too, huh?
That's exactly what you want to do. So just a little bit about us. So Joe and I, we run a couple of cupcake shops, and at the shop, we almost never use mixers this small. So our mixers are like 10 times bigger than that, literally. So we have 20 quart, 30 quart, 60 quart mixers that we're constantly using at the shop. So this is actually great to use this, because sometimes, quite frankly, I can forget, because, just dealing with volume constantly and dealing with these smaller portions, it brings it all back. All right, honey. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna turn that back on. You're gonna put that on medium, just like it was.
Okay.
And now while that's going, guys, we're gonna move on to our dry ingredients. So for our dry ingredients, we're gonna measure out, we're actually gonna sift that first. So Joe is gonna sift his AP flour. Just regular AP flours, guys, nothing really special. Please don't use cake flour in this recipe. It's not gonna work out for you. It's gonna end up being a really dense cupcake because the flour is just too light.
And why do I need to sift it?
That is not the right measuring size. You might as well just go in and use the 1 cup.
Sure.
So you're gonna be sifting your flour to lighten it up, your cupcake. You want your cupcake to be light and beautiful. You don't want it to be heavy. If you have too much flour in it, you're gonna have a heavy cupcake. So we're gonna go in and sift that. And we're gonna make sure that our flour is lightened up for your butter emulsification. So that looks good. If you have a sifter of this size, this is a hand sifter. If you have one of this size, you can probably put all 3 cups in there at once. So put your last 2 cups in there, JoJo. Don't be shy, it's okay. Now, if you had a smaller one, then it would make sense to do 1 cup at a time, because you don't have enough space, but this is pretty big. So we're gonna go on and put the last 2 cups in there. Looking good. And then JoJo is gonna sift it. So give it some light taps into your bowl, and that's good to go. So perfect. So now what we're gonna do is, that looks pretty good.
All right.
Let's see here. Generally speaking, what I would do, this is what we're gonna do since we have this here, and I'm a person that likes to sort of improvise. I need to sort of make sure that this isn't too much flour. So once we've done sifting it, I usually have another bowl into which I sift this. So that's actually what we need to do. So what I'm going to do is do this, Joseph.
Sure.
I'm gonna have you sift the rest of that into here.
Sure.
And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remeasure it into that bowl.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Yep.
So I'll hold it for you.
I got it.
You got it?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, you let me know it's a big sifter, so I think I can put it all in there.
Perfect. All right. And this looks pretty good, so I'm gonna go in and turn this off, okay? There we go. Perfect.
All right, now you want me to measure 3 cups back into here?
Now you're gonna measure 3 cups back into that bowl.
Sounds
and that's
good.
perfect. Just use your knife or whatever you have handy and level that off. And guys, basically leveling, just make sure you do not pack your flour into your measuring cup. please be certain to use a light touch so that way you don't have too much flour in your cupcakes. So this is perfect. JoJo's doing a great job.
Might need to go toss some in there with this.
Yes, this is a good idea. There we go. Let me help him out. There we go. Looks good. All right. We're almost done. Don't tap your cup like Joseph just did. That is not what you're supposed to do. Do not tap your measuring cup. You want the flour nice and lightened in there. That's why we're watching this show, so we can see our amateur who's learning some of the mistakes that he makes so we don't do it.
All right.
Perfect. So we're gonna go on and set this aside.
Sure.
Perfect. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure out 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And again, you're gonna use your knife or whatever you use to level your flour to level that out. You must have these products leveled properly. Perfect, so 2 teaspoons, that's 1. And
this is the baking powder, right?
That is the baking powder.
And how do I tell the difference between the baking powder and the baking soda?
Well, that's more of an advanced thing to notice, but generally speaking, your baking soda, if you get up close here, your baking soda and your baking powder are actually different colors and textures. So your baking soda is whiter than your baking powder, and that's really how you can tell. And then your baking powder also is sort of a lighter, more feathery dust. And so that's generally how you can tell if you've gotten them mixed up somehow. All right, so now Joe is gonna go on and put 1 teaspoon of baking soda in there.
1 teaspoon.
That's right. Perfect. And now we're gonna also put 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. All right. Looks good. And then we're going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. Now this is all the nutmeg we had here today, so we're gonna make do like we do around here. And we're just gonna pop that, and it's a 1/2 teaspoon. We're gonna go in and just pop that on in there, babe. Just slide it in with your finger, it's okay. You know it's a 1/2 teaspoon at home. And there we go, that's perfect. That is good to go. And if you're a tiny bit short, it's okay. There's a lot of different spices in this, so no one's gonna know except for us. So that is perfect. I'm definitely a baker that improvises a lot. I do not get stressed out if I don't have something. If I don't have lemon and I have lime, I use lime, and vice versa. That's just how I do in the kitchen. All right, and so that was your nutmeg. So now you're gonna do 1/4 teaspoon of allspice.
Which one is the allspice?
Allspice, so this is your allspice. Allspice is dark brown, so we're gonna put that in. It's much darker than cinnamon. Yeah, so 1/4 teaspoon.
1/4 teaspoon.
That's right,
So
where's that at, honey?
2/8?
Yeah, is there no 1/4 teaspoon? Let's see, there's gotta be one. Oh, yeah, you are right, very smart. Look at JoJo. So yes, 1/4 teaspoon is, if you have an 1/8 teaspoon measure, it's 2 of those. Okay? So wow, Joe is getting clever on me. That was interesting.
Right.
So now we need the same amount of ginger, so he's gonna do the same thing. We're improvising. We're gonna do 1/8 teaspoon twice. So he's gonna go in and measure that in. So honestly, you know, so sweet potato cupcakes are a little bit, if any of you guys at home have ever had spice cake, it's very similar to spice cake. Except this has sweet potato, so it's gonna be a little bit moister and things of that nature. So yeah, all right, moving along. So now we're gonna need to put some of that salt in there, darling.
All right.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Actually make it 3/4 teaspoon since we're using unsalted butter. There we go. We're gonna put our 1/2 teaspoon in.
1/2. And
That was what was that?
That was a 1/2.
Okay, perfect.
And then the 1/8?
So what we're gonna do here, because this is getting interesting. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna take that. There we go, guys. Boom, done. All right, so that was just another 1/2 of that, and that was plenty. All right, you can go in and get ready to whisk your dry ingredients together. You're gonna wanna make sure these are really well whisked. Make sure everything's in there good, because you don't want to have a clump of spices on one side of your bowl, and then that means that it won't be mixing well with your butter sugar mixture. Let's see that, looking good, perfect. All right, Joe has an interesting way of whisking. Not sure what's happening, but he's getting it done. I guess that's all that matters. So yeah, just make sure you're lifting your whisk up from the bottom and make sure everything is nicely mixed. Okay, good job, babe.
All right.
You are done with that. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're done with the dry portion. We're gonna go on and put these dry ingredients to the side because we'll be using these later. So now what you're gonna do is, babe, you're gonna lower that bowl, scrape down your sides again. Now we're about to move on to our eggs. So we're gonna be putting 3 room temperature eggs in here. Now let's say, for instance, and they need to be large, okay? So let's say, for instance, you don't have room temperature eggs. You forgot to take them out. No problem. Take your eggs, put them into very warm water. Tap water is fine. You don't need to be boiling water. So put them in the very warm water and let them sit in there for about 20 to 30 minutes. Voila, you have room temperature eggs. Done. Same thing goes, by the way, for your butter. Not with the water, but if you ever have butter that's icy cold and you need it to come to room temperature quickly, simply use your microwave. So take your butter, put your microwave on half power, and microwave it at 20-second intervals until it's at the temperature it needs to be, okay? In my kitchen, nothing is ever the end of the world. We always make sure that we have an alternate method to do something. All right, looks good. So now what Joe is gonna do is he's gonna put in 1 egg at a time. So.
Do I need to have this running while I'm doing it?
Absolutely. So you're gonna turn that back on. There you go. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna crack that egg in there and you're going to let it mix until the yolk disappears. So once the yolk disappears, you can crack in your second egg and then your third egg, okay? Perfect, looking good. That looks great. All right. And there's our third egg. And then once we're done with our third egg, you're gonna mix this for a few moments. We're gonna turn that mixer back off, scrape down that bowl again, because it's very important to constantly scrape your bowl. And we're going to turn it back on to medium high. All right, you can go on and turn that off. Scrape the bowl. Make sure it's scraped on all sides, please, and at the bottom and on your beaters.
All right, so back on.
Back on. Turn it up just a little higher. All right, looking good. Perfect. So now while that's going, we're gonna go on and let that go for a few minutes. This is actually not a bad time to get our pecans cooking, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna dust that off and add a little sugar on it, no problem. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go on and turn our oven on to 350 degrees and we're gonna put those on this pan. Perfect. Spread those out, JoJo. And then pop those in the oven. Now those are only gonna toast for about 7 to 10 minutes or until they're fragrant, okay? Perfect.
Should I put it in?
Yep, just pop it on in. And remember, 7 to 10 minutes is plenty long enough. Now, this is looking really good. JoJo, you can go on and turn that off. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get ready to add this in. Actually, before we even get started on that, we need to go on and get ready to puree our sweet potatoes to add into this step. So we're gonna be going and doing that in just a moment. And then you'll see how we fold these sweet potatoes into this mixture right here. And then we'll go from there. All right, so now we have went on and pureed a 15-ounce can of sweet potatoes. And drain them first, then puree them. And then now we're also about to add in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So go on and add in your 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Perfect. And then we're gonna go on and add in our sweet potatoes. Very good. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go on and turn this mixer on to pretty much medium speed and just let it mix for a few moments. Perfect. And once it's nicely mixed and everything is well incorporated, we are going to then alternate adding in our flour mixture and our buttermilk mixture. Okay, so we're going to start with flour and end with flour. and we're gonna add this in 2 parts. So this is looking pretty good. Let's take a look. Looks good. Jojo, you can turn that mixer off. And we're gonna go in and add in a cup of our dry mix. Perfect. And then you're gonna go in and raise that mixer back up again for me and turn it on low so your flour doesn't come flying out of the pan.
That's the lowest setting on this.
Wow. All right, well, we're gonna make that work. And then that's right, that's looking pretty good. You're gonna mix that for just a few seconds. You don't wanna over mix this. Go on and pour in half of your buttermilk, please. And we used 1 cup of buttermilk. So you can use non-fat buttermilk or you can use full fat buttermilk. That's up to you. That's perfect, so he's done with that. And then we're gonna let that mix for a few moments. And you can turn that off. Add in some more of this. Gonna add in another 1/3 of your flour. Looking good. All right. I'll turn that back on. So this is one of the things that we have to do in the shop quite often. We have to pulse our mixer so that all the flour doesn't end up all over the place, including in our hair.
Were you impressed that I knew that?
I was very impressed. All right. So that's looking pretty good, Jojo. So you can turn that off. And we're gonna add in the rest of our buttermilk. All right, add the rest. Perfect.
Flour also?
No. We're always gonna alternate. That improves the texture of your cupcake. Everything is about texture. All right, good. All right, you can turn that off. We're gonna add in the rest of this flour mixture. And we're almost there. Everything's coming together nicely. It's looking very delicious. So, all right. So the idea for this cupcake, the way it even came to me was, so we got chosen to enter this. We were actually asked to enter this contest. It was for a radio station. And, I wanted to do something different, but with flavors that people recognize. And I was like, oh, this brings home the South. Sweet potatoes, bacon, pecans. Let's put it all together. So that's why we're here today. All right, that's looking really good. So Jojo, what I have you do is scrape down the sides of your bowl really quick. You're gonna wanna make sure at the very end to scrape down your bowl and make sure all of that flour around the edges is down there inside of your batter. So you see what Jojo is doing? He's mixing it in there really good. Make sure to get as much of that flour from the sides of your bowl as you can and scrape from the bottom as well. It's looking good. All right. Make sure to put that down in there as well. There we go. All right, looks good. And just let that mix for literally just maybe about 20 seconds. That's about it. And then you're done. You don't want to overmix it. Get it nice and light and fluffy. And I think we're good to go. All right, looks good. Perfect. All right, so right now we're just gonna go on and quickly scoop our batter into some prepared pans. And you can do a nice heaping scoop. These cupcakes don't rise a ton. So we're gonna quickly get that done and then we're gonna pop them in the oven so we can try our wonderful, delectable dessert. And just use, when you're thinking about using a scoop, just use I usually use a 4-ounce scoop and just pop it right on in. It gets done nice and quick and mindlessly, and they're all pretty much uniform in size. All right, Joe's moving along rapidly here. This is his experience from the Cupcake Fairy.
Right.
Assembly line work.
Yes, I do a lot of this.
Tons of it. He does the grunt work. All right, looks good, honey. And all right, ready to go in the oven. Perfect. And Jojo, what we're gonna do is, this is perfect because you're gonna go in and take out those pecans as well.
Okay, perfect. So take out the pecans?
Yes, take out those pecans first. Pecans are ready to roll. And
they smell good too.
they're so fragrant. It makes the whole house smell amazing. All right,
And
put those in. Perfect. right, so right now we got our icing done, and Joe is gonna go on and start piping those. That is a 6B tip, in case you're wondering. He's gonna start in the center and go around using even pressure. Perfect, that's perfect. That's a perfect amount right there. All right, and so basically the way we finished off this cream cheese buttercream icing is we simply added 6 cups of sifted powdered sugar. Okay, that's what we did. And then we go on and mix that up for a few minutes, and she was ready to roll. And so now we're doing these wonderful finishing touches on these cupcakes.
It's not the prettiest.
No, it is not. So yeah, but that's okay, guys, because when you're new and you don't really know what you're doing, this is pretty much how it's gonna look, okay? And it's okay because they're gonna taste delicious. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna finish these off. And Joe is gonna give his caramel a quick whirl. Give that a quick whirl. Our caramel looks really good. Lift that spoon up so they can see the texture. Let it pour out. Looks good. All right, and so we're gonna drizzle some of that on our cupcakes. That's right, get a nice little spoonful and drizzle it on. Don't be shy. That's right, drizzle it on there. Perfect. That's right, you're gonna drizzle all of those. All right, good. Looking good, JoJo. Starting to look like a pro.
I'm getting there.
All right, and he's gonna finish off the last 2. And perfect. Looks beautiful. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna finish that off with either one. You can actually start with a little pecan or a little bacon, it doesn't matter. So however you'd like to start, JoJo, you do it. Put a little sprinkling, not an overpowering amount of bacon. Basically, I fried 4 pieces of bacon, and you're gonna crumble that up and you're gonna put them on your dozen cupcakes. Now, if you'd like a little bit more bacon, that's up to you, it's your discretion. Me, I think a little bit less is more. So we're gonna pop that on there. It's nice and toasted bacon.
And this is a high
good.
quality bacon too.
It is,
Good.
Delicious, right? And then we're gonna go on and sprinkle it with some of our toasted pecans. And a finishing touch here. And I know you guys are thirsting and hungering for these because they look so amazing.
I know earlier you told me that there was some alternate flavoring you can put into the pecans, something about sugar mixture.
Oh yeah, so if you wanted to with your pecans, if you'd like, you can toss your pecans with a tablespoon of butter or olive oil and toast them like that as well. And you're gonna be using 2 cups of pecans.
Wow.
All right, well, now is the moment. We're gonna go in and give this a taste and see how our delicious product that we worked so hard to make is gonna work out, and let's see. Guys, this is amazing. So you can taste all those flavors. The sweet potato, a hint of that bacon, those toasted pecans. This is the South in your mouth. You must make one of these. So yeah, that's what she looks like. Very delicious, you see that? I'm telling you, you're gonna wow your family members. So these are our award-winning sweet potato with homemade caramel, bacon, and toasted pecan cupcakes. We made frosting for these, we made that caramel, and of course we made the batter. It's really delicious.
Well, and then you can find this recipe if you go to our website, cupcakefairy.com. So it's cupcake with K's, Kupkake, no C's, cupcakefairy.com. You'll find the recipe to this, more information about us and our business down in North Carolina.
Yep, and thank you so much for watching us, and we hope to see you again. And on the next episode, we're gonna be making a cookie and cream drip cake.